I'm going to be explaining how my students used the iPad, which is on the right, or we could also use the LearnPad, which we've accomplished this on both devices. The students actually created a image that showed their understanding of attribute rules with shapes. So to do this process, the goal was for my students to sort some shapes and post that image of their shapes sorted onto the class blog or their own personal blog, which in turn allowed their classmates to go and try to identify the rule that they had created. So this required students to understand attribute rules as well as understand how to identify those rules. So first off, they had to create it, then they had to go and leave comments on each other's blogs of the actual rule that was created by their peers. So let me show you this process first on the iPad, and then I'll show you how we did it on the LearnPad. Again, we're going to use two different apps on both devices, but the end result will end up being pretty much the exact same thing. So with EduCreations, this is the app that I'm in, is EduCreations on the iPad. One of the things that we used EduCreations for, because it allows us to import images directly from Dropbox. And again, I have a teacher account and then I have a student account. In between these two accounts, I have a shared folder. So anything that I put in the shared folder for my teacher account will automatically show up in the student's account, since it's a shared folder between the two of us. So clicking on this icon, it allows me to click on Dropbox. And then the file, or I should say the folder that we have, is just called shared. And I can see here I have a whole bunch of lettered pictures. Now it's kind of insignificant as far as why do I have them labeled with letters, but it's more or less the student had to insert all of these pictures. So they would click on it and it would load image A, they would go back to Dropbox, repeat, there's B, then they'd go back and they would repeat this process until they got all those images in. Now I'm not going to go through and spend all the time putting all of them in. I'll put enough in so that we can create an example that the students would have done. So after the students had their shapes in, what they would do is they would take these shapes and they would sort them based on an attribute. So they would then divide the box, and then the side that they wanted to be the side that their classmates would guess, they wrote the word rule. So you can see over here that I've sorted some of the shapes out, and there is a mystery rule that they had to have their classmates figure out. So now that they've sorted this, what we do is we just take a quick screenshot of this. After we've captured the screenshot, those students would then open up the KidBlog app. And once they went into the KidBlog app, they could title it, "What's My Rule?" And then they could add that image using the icon on the bottom right to add it from the photo library. So in the camera roll, there's that picture. We'll go ahead and add that picture. So that would then allow them to click on publish. And once they published it, you can see there it pops up. It's displaying that image that that student created. This in turn allows students, I guess the other classmates, to go and leave a comment by clicking on the little, if there's not a comment already, they click on 0 comments, or if they scroll down, it'll also give them a leave a comment box. So in that comment box, they would try their best to type the rule that they thought. So for this example that this student created, they should be able to identify that the attribute rule that was used to sort these shapes would be all triangles would be sorted out. So any of those shapes that were considered a triangle would be sorted onto one side. So again, that student would leave the comment in this comment box saying that the rule was all triangles. That was how it could be done on the iPad using EduCreations and then using the KidBlog app as well. Now we can accomplish the same exact thing on the LearnPad. Now to do this, we used a slightly different app. In this app, it was called Linsu Create. It has kind of the same concept as EduCreations. It allows you to insert pictures from Dropbox. So we would do the same kind of concept where we go into Dropbox, we would click on that shared folder, and there we would go step by step, and we would be able to add those images in from Dropbox. So just like we did earlier, we would go and grab each of those images from Dropbox, and you can see the one difference from this compared to the EduCreations on the iPad was that it actually shows you a thumbnail of the picture. So that might be useful for your students to see those thumbnails. It might help them out a little bit. Let me get this shape over here. So as I'm sorting these out, let's do this, change it up a little bit. So again, after they had sorted, they would take and they would draw a line again, just like they did on the iPad. And they would go ahead and write rule on the side that they wanted. After they were done, they would then take this image that they had, and it allowed them to then save it, so they could save it to the gallery. So to do that, they took a screenshot just like they did on the iPad. So it takes a screenshot. Once it takes that screenshot, it's saved to the gallery on the LearnPad. So they would exit out. They would go to the EduBlogs, and once in EduBlogs, they would create a new post. So once they clicked on create a new post, they could add a title just like they did on the iPad. So we'll do what's my rule, if I can type. So we did what's my rule, and with this they actually have to insert a picture, so kind of the same process as what we did on the iPad. If we click in the body of the text, it gives us a little camera icon down here, which then allows me to insert a picture. So we'll click on that, we'll select it from the photo gallery, and we'll click on the screenshots. So you can see there is the latest screenshot that I had created. And then they would again click that little paper airplane, and that little airplane would then make that post go live to their classmates to then go and leave a comment on. So if we went and looked at the site, you would be able to see that if we went to an example of a student that has already done this, I can show you. Oh boy. So looking at this student's blog, then you can see here's an example of the rule. Clicking on the speech bubble allows you to leave a comment of what you thought the rule was. So again, that was using the iPad and the LearnPad to have students create attribute rules for their students or for their peers to guess.